The Jehovah's Witness religion has impacted people's lives in many different ways. This video is the personal way in which this religion has impacted my wife and myself. It involves having children because, like many, literally hundreds of couples who were striving to be in what is referred to as full-time service, or basically moving Watchtower products throughout the community on a full-time basis, how it impacted our views, attitudes, and decision-making when it comes to having children.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hi, I'm Daniel.
Hey, I'm JT.
And the purpose of this video is to speak to you about the Jehovah's Witnesses and the high cost of having low to no children.
Yeah.
JT, let's talk.
Yeah.
What is or has been the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Society's position on having children?
Yeah. This is kind of interesting, and it kind of takes you back into the history of the organization. The basic position the society has always pretty much held is they have discouraged people from having children, always. And the reason why, because you're able to be involved in more of moving their products, basically. I mean, that's really the bottom line. As I'm sitting here right now, I can think of literally hundreds of couples, especially couples I've known, many of them I know personally, who have not had children. I know people who have had children and they've decided not to have any more children. So, I think about myself, my own family. During the early 70s leading up into 75 when the world was supposed to end, you would have speakers at assemblies, conventions, local speakers come and give talks at the hall, and they was always invoke the scripture, woe to the pregnant woman, woe to the pregnant woman, because you have to run in the wintertime and all this kind of stuff. And so it would discourage me from having more kids. It was really bad for my mom because at the time she was pregnant with my brother. And I remember she would go home and I was in the back seat and I would look in the rearview mirror and she would have tears coming down many times because she was afraid, suppose the system come to an end and I'm still carrying, the baby and everything. And so this constant, just beat people down with ridiculous stuff. And so over the years, there have been many couples who have delayed or actually just simply postponed. We'll have children in the new system.
Right.
And I look at myself. Me and Lady C. We have no children. And the reason we have no children is because we were planning on having our children in the new system, like so many other couples that we know. So that we could do more for the society, moving the books and so forth. That's really what it is. We call it for the kingdom of God, but that's really what it was.
And by the way, just let me cut in. Did the society ever say that in print, or was it part of just culture that made you think that you weren't supposed to have kids so you could spend more time with Jehovah in the last days?
Yeah. It actually was both. Like I said, you have the talks that will be given, then you have the culture. It's kind of interesting, especially if you're in full-time, what they call full-time service. When I was at Bethel, if a couple got pregnant, it wasn't really viewed as a joy. It's like, oh man, they pregnant now. So you see this cultural thing. Or if you know a circuit overseer, him and his wife, she got pregnant. Oh man, that baby's a circuit breaker, as we used to call it.
Wow.
I mean, so it was always in a negative connotation. And the issue that you raised about the price that you have to pay.
Yeah.
See, witnesses were banking on the system coming to an end.
Right.
The generation of 1914 wasn't supposed to die. And so all of these people, especially people who are my parents' age and now my generation coming along, we were under the understanding that God was going to bring this world to an end before we got old. So now you have all of these people who don't have children.
Right.
Getting up into age. And unfortunately, one of the things about the organization, which is really a very negative, the organization doesn't take care of its old people. Right. Now, you and I were talking offline, there are many churches, they have facilities for their senior citizens. Priests and nuns, say what you think about them, but at the end of the day, the Catholic Church has set aside facilities because they have said that these people, they sacrifice for the church.
Right.
So we're going to make sure they're taken care of as they get older. Well, just recently, we just saw what happened with the society. They let 1,000 Bethelites go home. They told an entire level in the organization, those who serve in the district work, go home. Which is interesting because typically district overseers are older than circuit overseers. because they hit the circuit when they was young. Now they're in the district work. Now they were told to go home. No kids.
So like the video we did on the high cost of low education.
Yes.
People made decisions not to go to college based on the belief that the system was coming to an end.
Yes.
In the same way, Jehovah's Witnesses, you, Lady C, others were told to basically not have kids for the same reason.
Yeah, you feel I'm going to wait till the new system. And the thing is, the new system's going to be here real soon. Well, 30, 40, 50 years later, you 75, 80 years old, and you have no children.
And your point there is you get older, you've got no support system, retirement-wise, education-wise, and family-wise to take care of you. You basically are...
You up creek, no paddle, and a hole in the boat. And so we see how that's happening even within our own family. We now are starting to see the needs of our parents. And we're seeing how the things that we have to do for them as they get up in their age. Unfortunately, when we reach our parents' age, we won't have children to do the little running around, go to the county office and the state office, and we won't have that. Yeah. And so the cost is very, very high. And I cannot imagine what it's going to be for witnesses who live in countries where the economic situation is not like here in the States. As I often say in a lot of the videos that we do, we often think in terms of the West, the United States, Britain, Australia. Think about the witnesses who are in countries where the economic conditions are worse.
Wow, great point.
Third world countries. Those individuals, older Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to be in trouble. They sacrificed not having children because they thought the end was going to come so soon. And now they need this help. And as I said before, the average person watching this video knows as an organization, we have no arrangement for older people. If you're fortunate to have an individual family in the hall that might go by and see Sister O, that's great. But there is no organized arrangement in this religion that we're going to help the older friends. It just doesn't exist, as we often see in other religions.
So you're on your own, and you basically bet your life
Yes.
on a lie.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so sad. We still sitting here, 30, 40 years later, waiting for the world to come to an end because we thought it was going to come. And so you now realize we have to now move in a different direction. And so it's kind of sad, but that is the reality. And so for us, we thought about, maybe adopting, but, that's a conversation we've had many times. But at the end of the day, you begin to look back and you see how you made decisions and what those decisions were based on. They were oftentimes based on information that was simply wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Heart to heart, man to man. Is this something that you still reflect on from time to time?
Oh, yeah, we talk about it, especially now that we're taking care of our parents who are getting up in the age. We're like, that's going to be us one day, and there's not going to really be someone here to help us. So you begin to see the reality. You begin to see literally the practical costs of having teachings that are wrong. Yeah. There's not just a spiritual cost, there's a practical cost. And that practical cost is literally starting to affect witnesses all over the world. The role that the way in which the witness families have been impacted. Children get this fellowship, they can't talk to their parents 10, 20, 30 years. Now they're up in age, they need help. Congregation says, go call your kids. Well, I haven't talked to them in 30 years. So what kind of relationship are you going to have now? You haven't spoken to your son in 36 years and now you need help because the congregation is not going to be there. And so that's what critical thinking is all about. The need to stop thinking, ask some serious questions about how our lives are being impacted, both in a spiritual way, but also just in a simple, practical way. That's what we see because we see what's happening right now.
Lady C, the high cost of having low to no children. How about you? Tell us from a lady's standpoint, from a mom's standpoint, how has this affected you?
Well, you know what? Early on, when I was younger, I didn't think anything about it because it was like you knew the end was coming. But as you get older, you go out, you see other people with their children.
Right.
As I got older and I saw my sister as her children got older, she became a grandmother and she has this relationship with her children. And I'm like looking on and I have no one, no kids, no one to call, nobody to be close to, have a special bond with. And you look at that and you're like, wow, I gave up a lot.
You talked about a story about someone speaking at the Kingdom Hall, another lady talking about getting pregnant and kind of a culture that has pregnancy sounding like a negative thing, where most people celebrate it. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yeah, I remember after I got married, there was a sister in my congregation, and she said, "If you get pregnant, I'm going to laugh at you," as if to say, "Oh, you messed up. You know, you did it wrong." You know, it's like, huh? You know, so then you're saying to yourself, I'm going to show them I'm not going to get pregnant because I know what I'm doing. I know I'm supposed to be trying to, you know, set the example for everybody, and I'm trying to make sure that, you know, I don't have children because I want to do more in the organization. The more kids you have, the more you can't do for Jehovah, that type of stuff. You
So
know?
heart to heart, as I said to JT, is that something that you still think about and affects you even today?
Absolutely.
And how?
Well, see, for me, like I said, when we get older, I'm a caretaker, take care of my parents.
Yeah.
And JT and I have this conversation all the time. And we're like saying, wow, we're doing so much for our families. And what happens to me when I can no longer speak for myself, can no longer make decisions, can no longer drive a car? What do I do? Who do I call on? These are the type of things that you got to start thinking about.
Yeah.
There's a lady on my Facebook page, and she said she admires me and JT. She said because she's a widow and she doesn't have any kids and her husband is gone. So she has no one now. So because she didn't have any children, she doesn't have a legacy.
And decided not to have children because of the Watchtower's
Right.
position.
You have single women that never got married and they never had children.
Right.
So they get up in age and they have no one.
The high cost.
It's a very high cost, and not only that, but there are churches that take care of their elderly.
Yeah, JT mentioned that.
Yeah. And so if you have a organization that you belong to, and that is their goal is to include the elderly, then you can see how they can be taken care of. But in the Jehovah's Witness faith, the only time you really are looked at is when you're out in field service. So when you get older and you can no longer come out and do things like you used to, no one goes to visit you. I remember when JT and I were courting and he would come to my congregation to visit, the first thing he would say is, let's go visit the old friends. This is not something that they do across the board at all. And I think a lot of it has to do with JT's personality. That's just who he is as a person.
Sure.
So when he came to visit me, we would go visit the old friends. Do you know they would tell us that no one had been by to see them from the congregation? We were the first people that even stopped by.
And had they had children, a child or many children, that's part of their support system, part of their love system, and because of the society, they opted oftentimes now. Sometimes people don't have kids for their own reasons, but too many times it's because they were following the society's lead. Basically betting your entire life. No, not just that person's life, but generational lives. Because when you don't have kids, that means you don't have grandkids or great-grandkids. And the devastation, as you're talking about how it affects families and the high cost of having low to no kids. Any final comments for the group?
Well, yeah, for those of you who are listening to this video, just understand that, you know, everyone's experience is different. And there are people that are watching that don't have children. There are people who are watching that they are currently Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is just something for you to think about. Because when you think about the way you're planning your life, you can't let, you know, someone else's agenda keep you from having a life, a family, and building your own legacy. You know, because that's what the world is about. Having children, and one generation takes care of the next generation.
Yes, ma'am.
Not only that, but it's you want that connectedness. You want to have that bond that you feel with your family. You will not get that at the Kingdom Hall. Because if you are not attending all of the meetings at the Kingdom Hall, going out in field service on a regular basis, you're not thought of as anything in this religion. Because their attitude is, what have you done for me lately? And when you get older, you can't do those things anymore.
Fair enough, Lady C. Listen, there may be a lot of things that you question. I hear Lady C and JT saying, you got one life to live. Live it based on your conclusions, not the society's conclusions, especially when it comes to having children. This is Daniel.
This is JT.
And this has been Lady C. And we'll see you on the next video. Hey, this is Lady C. Thank you for tuning in to The Critical Thought. We appreciate having you in our audience. Not only that, but we invite you to subscribe to our channel and be sure to hit that bell so that you can receive notifications when we upload new content. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Thank you for being in our audience.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.